This is Ocean Robbins here. So excited that in just about 14 minutes now, we're going to begin episode 2 of the Food Revolution Summit docu-series. Today's topic is the brain episode, how diet and lifestyle can help you think clearer, feel better, and prevent Alzheimer's. In recent years, rates of brain fog, memory loss, mental health struggles, and dementia have all been skyrocketing. Are we destined to a future where our most precious faculties are compromised? What have brain experts discovered that could help you to beat the odds? In today's episode, we're going to investigate the role of diet, lifestyle, and environmental factors, some of which are also in our control, in the development of neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's. We're going to explore the impact of diet on mental clarity and focus, and we're going to shed light on the explosion in rates of depression, anxiety, ADHD, and other mental health challenges. You're going to learn the essential foods, the supplements, and the dietary patterns that promote brain health and that can slash the danger of Alzheimer's. And you're going to learn about remedies for brain fog, for memory loss, and for mental health challenges. So welcome. If you've got a brain, which I know you do, you are so in the right place. You're one of more than 400,000 people who have now signed up for this summit between our spring release and this one that we're in now, and who are taking a stand for a healthy, ethical, and sustainable food system for all. If you are interested in your health, and if you want to make this world a healthier place, and if you want to learn how to make food choices that optimize your well-being, you're so in the right place. Now, yesterday, we started the summit with episode 1, Beyond the Deception, and we've received thousands of enthusiastic comments from so many wonderful folks. Melissa said, "This is my story. After the last summit, I transitioned to a whole food plant-based diet. My numbers are now amazing. Glucose, cholesterol, blood pressure, all normal. Thank you." Melissa. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us. We hear these stories a lot, folks. So as you're listening, if you're struggling with any current health challenges, consider as you go through this summit what your success story might be next time round. I can't wait to hear about it. Queen Karen said, "Best place to be to start your day, learning to eat and live a better life. The brain episode is most beneficial to me at my age, and being able to share with my family and community is great." Awesome, Karen. So glad you're here with us. Trish said, "Good afternoon from Nottingham. I'm so privileged to have access to this life-saving information. I had a serious operation in October 2021, and luckily for me, I was plant-based because on the 7th attempt, the surgeon managed to save my small intestine. Thank you, Ocean and John, and all the speakers. You are the best." Trish, that sounds painful and scary, and I'm so glad that the surgeon was able to save your small intestine and that you're here with us now. Bless you. Thanks for sharing. Caridad said, "Hi, Ocean and John. Thank you for this priceless knowledge you share with us. I've shared the link with my relatives. My question is, how do I convince my relatives to change their diet and lifestyle without being a nuisance or offensive? Most of them have heart disease, diabetes, arthritis, and kidney disease. I just don't want them to realize it's too late. Thank you again." Well, Caridad, thank you for sharing your question, and thank you for sharing this summit with your relatives. That's one of the best things you can do, I think, is to spread the word and share resources that have been meaningful to you with people that you love. That doesn't mean they will participate, but at least you're giving them the opportunity. And at the end of the day, I like to think, how can we be in alignment with our own conscience? Because that's our core responsibility. Not to save somebody else, not to fix somebody else, certainly not to change somebody else, but to be in our own integrity. Which means, for me, both part of my integrity is respecting other people's sovereignty, their own dignity, their own capacity to make the choices that they perceive to be in their self-interest. Because at the end of the day, that's what we need to support them in doing. At the same time, we also need to be in our integrity, which means that we know we've done our part. And the thought of losing a loved one and thinking, oh my gosh, I wish I had said more, I wish I had shared more, I held back and now they're gone, that's a painful thing to live with too. But so too is the feeling that you tried and they resisted and pushed back. And so we just have to find our way with each relationship and recognize that, if somebody wants to live, without pain, if somebody wants to live with more vitality and joy, then we want to be an ally to them with their goals. And some people seem to be so caught in addictive food cycles, maybe that isn't actually what they're most committed to. But we want to perhaps illumine for them what might be at stake, or at least how we're impacted, right? Because you can always say, I care about you and I love you and I want you to be healthy and I want to support you. I've learned some things that I'm excited about. Here's the benefits. If you get to be your own success story, that speaks 1,000 words. And I know so many people who say, oh my gosh, I've lost a bunch of weight, I'm feeling better, I'm more energetic, and people are asking me my secret. That's a really powerful place to stand in. So put your own oxygen mask on first, as they say, before helping others on airplanes. Do your part, play your part, live it as fully as you can, be your own best example. Start there, and then share resources and inspirations with others, and also make sure they know that you love them no matter what they eat. This, I think, is particularly powerful if you're really sincere in that. Your unconditional love and your respect for their sovereignty will go so far, because then instead of feeling like they've got to be in a power struggle with you, who's going to win? Well, guess what? You're going to lose when it comes to their life if you're in a power struggle with them. Instead of that, you're allies. You're allies because you're sharing who you are. You want to live your best life. You love them. Maybe you're helping them with their goals. Suddenly there's the possibility for collaboration. And that's what you want at the end of the day. Also look for openings. If somebody shares about a concerning lab result or a pain or suffering they're experiencing, that might be a moment not to instantly come in with, oh my gosh, let me push my agenda on you now, but rather an opportunity for you to say, oh, I have empathy, I have compassion. Would you like to hear about something? I notice that I'm hearing about what you're going through, and I notice that I'm inspired to want to share some resources that might be helpful, but I don't want to overstep. I don't want to push past or get into our old power struggles. So would you be interested? Like those are kind of safer questions than something that feels more aggressive. So there's nuances to every relationship. I hope that some of the ideas I'm sharing may be useful to you. Listen in your own heart to feel what's true for you in each of these relationships. And remember, again, loving people no matter what they eat is incredibly disarming and incredibly helpful. As you listen to today's presentations on today's broadcast, which will be starting in about 6 minutes, I want to invite you to think about what this information means to you, and also think about who you may want to share it with. Because this is only the second day of the summit. There's so much more to share. So just like Kara Dad just told us, there's an incredible opportunity here to tell your loved ones about the summit. Send them to foodrevolutionsummit.org and they can sign up for free. If you just joined us, I'm Ocean Robbins, sharing a few welcoming words. We'll be starting our broadcast of episode 2 in the Food Revolution Summit in about 6 minutes. Sigalit said, I love you and your father. I'm a cancer survivor for 25 years. I hardly see a doctor. I'm alive because of you and your father. The doctors told me I was dying 25 years ago. Organic and juices make me healthy. Thank you for your information. Thank you for everything you do. God bless you. Sigalit, thank you so much for being with us. Sorry you've been dealing with cancer in your life, but how wonderful that you have found a path towards health and vitality through healthy living. And we hear these stories so often. And, a lot of folks are dealing with pain, and they say that pain pushes. Sometimes it's the catalyst for us to change our lives. Sometimes we become far healthier on the other side of a crisis. Other times vision pulls. Some of us are motivated by our visions and dreams for what we really want for our lives. Sharon said, my biggest takeaway is that we need to flame this fire. If more of us become proactive in what we purchase, we make a difference. It's true, Shireen. The way I think of it, Food 1.0 is about survival. If you can get enough calories to fill your belly, that is success. And for a lot of people in the world today, that is the central goal of food. Food 2.0 is about commerce. It's about the buying and selling of goods. And it's brought us a huge range of taste and texture and cuisine from all over the planet. But Unfortunately, it has no moral compass, and it's killing us, and it's destroying our planet too, by the way. Food 3.0 is governed by health. Health for our bodies and health for our planet. And there are plenty of healthy profits for the food industry in Food 3.0 as well. It's just that they come from healthy food. So at Food Revolution Network and in this summit, we're calling for that movement into Food 3.0, where we make health a central organizing principle, where food is nourishment, not just entertainment. And we help to invest with our purchases in a new food economy. As organic and natural food producers become better funded, they'll actually have more lobbying influence, which in our strange political system might actually mean that they help create the conditions for more success for their enterprises. So every dollar we spend is kind of like a vote. Let's vote for the health we want and also for the world we want, and seek to invest in a healthier food economy. Joy said, I'm a retired nurse practitioner who studied health and nutrition for over 40 years. I've watched and purchased past Food Revolution summits. Despite all this, I have learned valuable information in this summit. I can't wait for the rest. I so wish this information could be seen by the masses. Therefore, I intend to purchase this summit so I can disperse this wonderful information. The quality of the presenters, some of whom I've followed for years, is stellar, as are both you, John and Ocean. I love and support Mercy for Animals and Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. I think I have every book of Dr. Greger's and books of Dr. Furman's, Dr. Barnard's. Yet as mentioned, I'm still learning about food and the corrupt industry. Yay to Craig Watts. I'm grateful for this summit. Awesome, Joy. Sounds like you've been busy. And how wonderful. There are so many wonderful resources. Most of our speakers have books, some of them multiple books, resources, films, and organizations that you can get involved with and support. There's so many ways to keep the learning going. And one of them is, in addition to all of our episodes in this summit, there's also 3 more extended interviews every day of the summit with some of our guest speakers, where you can dive deeper into the topics of the day. These are incredibly powerful. So if you have time, in addition to the episodes, you can join in for that. And if you get the empowerment package, then you'll have the time, because you'll own it all for life. And of course, you can spread the word as Joy is doing. Maria said, good morning. I'm hoping to learn how to get my health, physical and mental, back from this. I've been suffering for over 12 years, trying med after med, going to specialist after specialist, to only continually get worse. I'm stuck and sick and don't know what else to do. Thank you for this and your time. Maria, I'm so sorry that you've been suffering for over 12 years. It can get so exhausting just to keep the fight going, can't it? And how painful and how frightening, and especially if you're living in debilitating pain along the way, physical and mental, so challenging. I'm so glad you're here. You're in the right place. Keep watching, keep learning, and we want to support you in getting better. So we're going to gift you with an empowerment package. You'll own all of the summit recordings and transcripts for life. You'll have access to the episodes and the extended interviews. Make sure you pay special attention today, because I think you're going to find today particularly valuable. Check out the gut health exercise episode, and whatever challenges you're specifically dealing with, I think you'll find value here. So bless you, and our team will be in touch with you. Congratulations. Jan said, my protein count is low. I'm whole food plant-based. How do I get more protein? Jan, we're almost out of time here for this morning before we start today's broadcast. So we're going to come back to your question later, because a lot of people are curious about protein. But for now, folks, we're about to be starting episode 2 of the Food Revolution Summit, and it's going to be incredible. As we move through the day, please continue to post and engage in the comment section on the broadcast page. Share your top takeaways, your aha moments, your breakthroughs, what this means in your life, and also your questions. Make sure you refresh the comments using the button provided there so you can see the most recent ones that have been submitted. After this episode, I'll be back with you to answer more questions and share insights and give away some prizes. But now it's time for episode 2. Here we go.
It's time for a food revolution.
The food revolution is impactful.
The food revolution is transformative.
Compassion.
It's time for a food revolution.
The food revolution is life.
The future of medicine.
Long overdue.
It's time.
It's time.
It is time for a food revolution.
The food revolution is our future.
It's power to change the world.
And it's available for everyone.
It's time for a food revolution.
It's time for a food revolution.
Join the food revolution.
Join the food revolution.
Now is the time.
Your brain was meant to thrive. From the moment you were born, it's been learning and growing, it's been adapting, it's been creating, and it's been cleansing. Your brain is really a master at filtering and storing massive amounts of information, making it possible for you to make clear decisions and helping you to achieve your goals in life. But for a lot of us, something has gone very wrong. Mental illness, anxiety, and depression are all skyrocketing. More and more people today are suffering from brain fog, and millions are heading steadily towards dementia.
Many people are surprised to learn that 2/3 of the people with Alzheimer's are actually women, and that women in their 60s are twice as likely to develop Alzheimer's as they are to develop breast cancer. And of course, Alzheimer's doesn't just affect the person who comes down with it. It has a profound and often devastating impact on spouses, children, friends, and caregivers.
In this episode, we're on a mission to change all of that. There are now hundreds of studies involving millions of people showing us that the underlying causes driving cognitive decline are something we can do a lot about. For example, we now have conclusive evidence that the main cause of Alzheimer's disease is not genetics or luck or ethnic background or how much money you have. It isn't even your level of access to healthcare. All of those things play a role, but the primary determinants are your diet and your lifestyle choices. And this means that the power to prevent dementia and to reclaim your brain health lies directly in your hands, and that's why we are here today.
I'm Ocean Robbins.
And I'm John Robbins.
And you're watching the 2024 Food Revolution Summit.
What we talk about is Alzheimer's, but it's actually much broader than that. It's about brain health. And that includes Alzheimer's, all the different types of dementia, strokes, mental health. There's a huge gap with what we know we can do and what's applied in the community. So it's critical that we speak about this devastating tsunami of brain diseases. Alzheimer's being just one of them affects 6.9 million people in the United States alone. Tens of millions of people worldwide, and this is going to grow massively in the next few decades.
Alzheimer's is one of the most researched conditions in the world. And I think that what I see as a clinician and through just being a clinical scientist is the impact that it has not only on the individual and their mind, but the impact it has on families, on all generations of the family. I think that caregivers and caretakers can be very stressed and very burnt out by caretaking a loved one who may be struggling with Alzheimer's.
Yeah, Alzheimer's, I think, is the most feared disease because when you lose your memories, you lose everything, you know. And my mom died of it, and she was a true genius, and just watching her beautiful mind deteriorate was really heartbreaking. And all of her siblings, and I have one of the APOE4 genes for it, so I'm at risk. So unlike other conditions that we've studied, nothing really works very well for Alzheimer's. You know, there have been billions and billions of dollars spent the last 20 years by pharma companies to find a drug that works. There've only been 2 drugs approved in the last 20 years. One, 3 years ago, aducanumab, probably never should have been by all accounts. More recently, lecanemab, and a cousin of that drug, was approved. But at best, it slows down the rate of getting worse by 27%. In other words, you get worse a little more slowly. But it's very expensive. It's $26,500 per person. But when you add the other ancillary costs, it's closer to $100,000 a year. And it has significant side effects like bleeding into your brain or brain swelling or things like that. So, and it's probably going to be a $5 billion a year drug, may bankrupt Medicare, this one drug, just because people are so desperate for a sense of hope, nothing works. And when someone's diagnosed, they'd say, I'm sorry, Mr. Jones or Ms. Smith, you've got Alzheimer's. There's really nothing we can do except to maybe slow it down a little bit. So if there's anything you want to do it soon and get your affairs in order. And that's it, you know, and they just take all the hope away from somebody. It's very much the way we were with heart disease 45 years ago. People thought at that time that once you had heart disease, the best you could do would be to slow it down.
We've got to do everything we can to prevent this problem on the front end. You know, Desmond Tutu had a quote that I find has a lot of traction for me. He said, yes, it's important to take people out of the river, but it's really important to find out why they're falling in the first place. And I like that because I can apply that to Alzheimer's. I'm all in as it relates to developing a cure. But I think more importantly, let's keep people from falling into the river in the first place. You know, we see headlines these days about these sudden breakthroughs in Alzheimer's treatment. And to be fair, they're pretty meaningless. And they are associated with significant downsides in terms of side effects like brain shrinkage and brain hemorrhaging, etc. And the reality is they don't really slow the progression of this devastating illness to any significant degree. So again, should there be the development of a cure or a way of stabilizing Alzheimer's, I'm all in. I think it'd be terrific. But meanwhile, we need to take a step back and ask ourselves, what's going on in the brains of Alzheimer's patients? And more importantly, then, once we understand that, what can we do to reverse that process, or at least face it head on and keep this problem from manifesting in the first place? And the good news is for your viewers that we know that information right now today. We have that information in our hands, and the real mission is to get that out to people so that they can change their lifestyle, they can make changes and create a way that they can actually be the arbiters of their brain's destiny.
We know that too much alcohol poisons the liver. We know that smoking causes lung cancer. But most of us don't realize that eating unhealthy foods can and does cause brain fog and cognitive decline. The scientific evidence is clear, it is compelling, and it is consistent that the brain is deeply damaged by poor food choices, perhaps even more so than any other bodily system. Somehow we have a hard time grasping that our cognitive health is directly linked to our overall health, and that when we eat poorly and fail to optimally nourish our bodies, our brains also will suffer.
And that when we eat healthy foods and nourish ourselves optimally, our brains can thrive. This doesn't just impact our odds of getting Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia. It impacts how we feel and our mental health too. In 2013, researchers from the University of Warwick and Dartmouth College studied the eating habits of 80,000 people in Britain. They found a direct correlation between positive mental health and the consumption of fruits and vegetables. The more fruits and vegetables people ate, the less likely they were to experience depression or anxiety.
If you're serious about wanting to remain sharp and clear thinking throughout your entire life, and if you're serious about preventing Alzheimer's and other forms of cognitive problems, you really need food to be part of the conversation. And sometimes the impact can be subtle at first, but over time, the results can be quite profound.
One of the things that I uncovered and learned in my journey in nutritional psychiatry was the fact that many of us at any age of life, right, might be walking around with some subtle changes in our brain, and nothing may happen. We may go through life with these cells remaining nascent and, live to a healthy older age. But depending on what we do, our stress levels, anxiety, but also how we're eating, our lifestyle, these cells can actually change toward developing cognitive problems and even things like Alzheimer's. The trick being that if there's inflammation, we have the ability to fend that off by changing significantly what we eat. Food becomes a very powerful tool in this conversation, because if you are starting to tweak how you're eating, that can actually lower inflammation, and you may not realize that you're fending off what could have been a devastating diagnosis.
As far as diet is concerned, there is plenty of information to show that there are, certain types of foods that can definitely prevent the prevalence or the incidence of Alzheimer's disease. We have studies on specifically greens, which you and I love, Ocean. I know how much you love kale, blueberries, for example, and foods that are high in anti-inflammatory and antioxidant compounds. But we have tremendous data showing that specific dietary patterns can help prevent Alzheimer's disease. These are essentially a combination of different foods that are part of a scoring algorithm. So when you eat certain foods, you score higher, and that essentially translates into lower risk of Alzheimer's disease. And there are other foods, when you eat more of them, that deducts your score, and so you have a higher risk of Alzheimer's disease.
In 1993, Paul Guillaume wrote a paper on Alzheimer's and the risk of food on Alzheimer's. And what he found was that those who ate meat, I'm talking about all categories of meat, chicken, fish, beef, all of them, and even fish, they had twice the risk of developing Alzheimer's as compared to those who ate plants.
It seems like every day we learn of another study demonstrating the ability of excellent nutrition to positively impact mental health, and the reality that poor nutrition damages the brain. These studies are many, they're clear, they're convincing, and they repeatedly show us that excellent nutrition is of really great help in preventing a wide range of psychological and cognitive health issues, from ADHD to anxiety, from depression to dementia to OCD.
And if those conditions have already begun to manifest, we have overwhelming evidence that in many cases, the same nutritional steps that can prevent the vast majority of these problems can also significantly help to reverse them. In 2018, researchers at Rush University in Chicago published a study in the journal Neurology. They assessed the diet and mental function of 1,000 elderly people. And the scientists conducting the study carefully adjusted for variables like education and exercise and family history of dementia. They found that the people who regularly ate leafy green vegetables like spinach and kale experienced dramatically less cognitive decline compared to the people who didn't. I'm a huge fan of eating greens for health, but even I was stunned by the findings of this study. One researcher said that for those who ate the most greens, it was the equivalent of being 11 years younger in age.
There's really no doubt that leafy green veggies like kale and spinach, arugula and collards and beet greens, and broccoli and parsley and chard, they're fabulous for both our physical and our mental health. But green is still only one color in the rainbow, and the compounds in other brightly colored fruits and vegetables like red peppers or blueberries or eggplant and many others also positively affect inflammation and memory and sleep and mood.
It's important to recognize that different fruits and veggies have different phytochemical profiles. I'm thinking right now about a study in which researchers found that different fruits and veggies supported different cognitive functions. The consumption of certain ones was associated with better execution and executive function, perceptual speed, and long-term memory, while the consumption of other veggies and fruits was more consistently linked to enhanced visual spatial skills and improved short-term memory. I think the take-home message is that we need to eat a wide variety of fruits and veggies in order to cover all the different bases.
The eminent neurologists, Dean and Aisha Sherzai, have treated thousands of patients with Alzheimer's disease. And they make the stunning assertion that up to 90% of those cases could have been prevented. And even for people with a very strong genetic risk for dementia, the disease can potentially be delayed for 10 to 15 years.
Being able to prevent 90% of Alzheimer's cases would be an incredible blessing to our lives. And it really is possible. In the famous MIND study, just improvements in diet alone reduced the incidence of Alzheimer's by 53%.
And one of the most compelling examples of what's possible is the blue zones. Researchers have found 5 blue zones worldwide, and these are the places where people live the longest and have the healthiest and the happiest elders on the planet. There's only one blue zone in the US, and it's notable for having greater life expectancy than any other city in the country, and that city is Loma Linda, California. The area is home to a very large number of vegetarians and vegans. In fact, about 1/3 of the population of Loma Linda are vegetarians of one sort or another.
This makes Loma Linda a fascinating population to study and to learn from. And that's exactly what happened when Drs. Dean and Aisha Sherzai became co-directors of the Alzheimer's Prevention Program at Loma Linda University. Their program is one of the most sophisticated in the world. They've got the most advanced imaging techniques, the latest biomarker and neuropsychological tests, and a behavioral intervention protocol that's more thorough and personalized than anything ever developed.
When we came here, and we actually chose to come to Loma Linda, and we had a clinic for 5 years, and during that time, I actually collected data on nutrition, exercise, stress, sleep, and everything else. And in that population, you expect at least a third of the population that comes to you to be vegetarian or vegan, because a third of the population in that region is vegetarian and vegan. So by law of distribution, you actually expected of the dementia patients that came to me, 3,000 of them, at least a third of them to be vegetarian and vegan. In fact, more than that, because the vegetarian and vegans were Seventh-day Adventists, and they had a greater proclivity to come to Loma Linda, their own hospital, right? They're associated. So there was a bias to come to Loma Linda more, whereas others, they could go to other regional hospitals. And lo and behold, what we found was something remarkable. It wasn't 1,000 individuals out of 3,000. It was 19 individuals that were plant-based. And that number was, again, it's cross-sectional. It's not the optimal study. Optimal study is prospective and long-term, which actually there is no such thing because it would be too expensive. But a case-controlled study. But it was absolutely remarkable that out of 3,000 individuals, only 19 of them in a region where there's lots of plant-based eaters were vegan or vegetarian. And that prompted further research and further looking into this. And when we looked at other data, same thing, we would see the same thing. More plants, lower dementia and vascular and other disease risks, and more meat and processed foods and fatty foods, greater risk of dementia.
What the Sure Eyes found at Loma Linda has been validated many times over. I'm thinking about a study published recently in the Journal of the American College of Nutrition. The researchers wanted to assess the impact on Alzheimer's disease risk for a host of dietary factors. So they analyzed a wide spectrum of dietary data from 10 countries, along with other studies that have looked at the relationships between diet and Alzheimer's disease. They found that consumption of meat increased Alzheimer's risk the most, closely followed by eggs, and then by high-fat dairy products. And on the other hand, they found that high intakes of fruits and vegetables and whole grains substantially reduced the risk for Alzheimer's.
People often think and talk about Alzheimer's disease as though it starts at one point at the moment of diagnosis. According to this thinking, you don't have it until that point, and then you do. But in reality, dementia, like heart disease, develops over the course of years.
We've long thought that some degree of cognitive decline is inevitable with aging. But now we have a huge amount of emerging evidence that cognitive impairment in older people is the result of decades of deterioration in the structure and function of our brain cells. And that deterioration happens far less in people who eat healthy diets.
What we're learning is that Alzheimer's is not an inevitable disease of old age. It's a lifelong process that starts early and reaches a tipping point in our later years. Heart disease is similar in that most heart attacks are preceded by decades of deterioration of our cardiovascular systems.
And it turns out that both the heart and the brain are highly vulnerable to disruptions in blood supply. And the same diet that opens coronary arteries and protects against heart disease also improves blood flow to the brain and protects against all kinds of cognitive impairments, including Alzheimer's. And the diet that does all this is a plant-strong whole foods diet, emphasizing lots of fresh vegetables and fruits, and particularly green leafy veggies.
There are new technologies for diagnosing Alzheimer's, 10, even sometimes 20 years before it becomes clinically apparent. But a lot of people would say, why would I want to know if I'm likely to get this horrible disease if I can't do anything about it? It'll just make me crazy.
Dr. Ornish mentioned that a lot of people might say, well, why would I want to know if I'm likely to get this horrible disease if I can't do anything about it? I'll just go crazy. And that was exactly the thinking of the highly esteemed scientist, Dr. James D. Watson, who, along with Francis Crick, won the Nobel Prize for their work identifying the structure of the human genetic code. In 2007, Dr. Watson had his own genome sequenced. However, he specifically requested that he not be told whether his genetic makeup predisposes him to Alzheimer's disease. When asked why, he said that since he couldn't really do much about Alzheimer's, he didn't want to know whether he was at risk.
But happily, we now know there's a lot we can do about preventing Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia and cognitive decline.
It's hard to overstate the importance of being able to think clearly, to think deeply, and to use the marvelous brain you've been given to your highest potential. When your brain is clicking on all cylinders, you don't experience brain fog. You're able to imagine and to create. You can envision possibilities and how to bring them to fruition. And all of this strikes me as a profound part of what it means to be a human being.
And yet many people today are experiencing periods of memory loss, lack of focus, and brain fog.
Brain fog is something we're seeing a lot. And, it can happen to everybody. If you're a little sleep deprived, it'll happen. But there are nutritional causes of it. One really obvious one is when we get hooked on something. Caffeine is something that's a part of a lot of people's lives, and they know brain fog before the morning cup of coffee kicks in. That's an obvious one. But there's another one that people may not know about. After that big meal, maybe Thanksgiving dinner or something like that, it's 2:00 in the afternoon, they've had a huge dinner, and suddenly they can barely stay awake. And they're trying to watch a football game or something, they just can't concentrate at all. Now, they might have thought that it was sugar or it was serotonin in a turkey or something. Nonsense, that's not it. What it is that huge load of fat, especially the saturated fat, the solid fat in cheese, in gravy, and so forth. That solid fat gets into your blood. Your blood is trying to go to the brain, but it's not the watery blood that blood should be. It's more like gravy. Your blood is like the gravy you just ate. It's more viscous. And that means the oxygenation of the brain is not good. And when your brain doesn't oxygenate, the neurons just can't connect. And people feel sleepy. And for many people, this is the way they live every afternoon because they're avoiding carbs because they think that's bad. So they're not eating rice and potatoes and these really low-fat foods. And they're eating a lot of high-fat stuff that's slowing down their blood flow.
And it's not just our Thanksgiving meals. Many of the foods we're eating on a daily basis, along with the beverages we're drinking, have been implicated in the development of brain fog, as well as Alzheimer's and many other chronic health conditions too. These foods actually change our emotions and our thoughts and the way we perceive ourselves in the world. And in a downward spiral that nobody would want to be caught up in, they increase depression, anxiety, and cognitive decline, which in turn actually prompt us to make poorer food choices.
It's a vicious circle. For a lot of us, the most common breakfast choices are ready-to-eat cereals that have got more sugar in them than a lot of candies. Others of us might reach for pastries or muffins or other highly processed breakfast desserts to start our days, even though these kinds of high glycemic foods are actually notorious for producing inflammatory responses in our bodies.
As an alternative, wanting to avoid highly processed and refined carbs, some of us might choose bacon or sausages for breakfast. But bacon and sausage, which are high in saturated fats and nitrates, have their own problems. And these include contributing to vastly higher rates of Alzheimer's.
In fact, researchers reporting in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition in 2021 wrote that each 25 gram per day increase in processed meat intake, which is like 2 more slices of bacon or 1 more sausage link per day, increases the risk of dementia by more than 40%.
And that is a huge increase in dementia risk from something that takes less than 5 minutes to eat.
In 1993, the Chicago Health and Aging Project started tracking what people eat. And they noticed something striking, that those people who tended to avoid bacon, cheese, sources of saturated fat, tended to stay mentally clear. They tended to have probably 2/3 less risk of Alzheimer's disease. I mean, that's huge. And so we now believe that what's happening is in the same way as bad fat will affect your heart, it also seems to affect the brain. And the good news, that's something you can change tomorrow. We know that there's a lot of genetic issues with regard to Alzheimer's. You've got the ApoE epsilon 4 allele, it's a genetic trait, you're at higher risk. Even those people can have reduced risk of Alzheimer's if they change their diet. Amazingly enough, while there are things that are bad, that are going to increase the risk of Alzheimer's, there are also things that are really good for us. One is leafy greens, vegetables in general. The people who eat the most fruits and vegetables have the least risk of developing Alzheimer's. And in America, What gets you into the most category is just having 1 or 2 servings of vegetables every day. Americans neglect them. If you build them in, you're going to do much better. There's one more, and that's vitamin E. Nuts, seeds, not a lot, just maybe an ounce a day, like a little handful a day. The vitamin E can cut Alzheimer's risk by about half.
It is true that the brain is made out of fat. When you look at the dry weight of the brain, about 50 to 60% is fat. As a matter of fact, 57% of the brain's infrastructure is made up of docosahexaenoic acid, DHA, which is an omega-3 fatty acid. So it's important for us to include some fat, but folks need to understand that there are, fats are not all the same. There are good fats and there are bad fats. The bad kind of fats that have been associated with increased risk of Alzheimer's disease are specifically saturated fats and trans fatty acids. And these are found in animal products such as meats and high-fat dairy products, and even sometimes in coconut oil and foods that have coconut oil and palm oil. They're very high in saturated fats and they have to be reduced. There are multiple different studies that have shown that people who choose saturated fatty acids and they eat less polyunsaturated fatty acids, they have a higher risk of developing Alzheimer's disease. Saturated fats actually increase our LDL cholesterol, which has been associated with the increased risk of Alzheimer's disease. So this link and this association has been repeated so many times in clinical trials and observational prospective studies and multiple different lines of research that it's almost becoming causative. Sometimes causality is questioned, but when there is repetition of data over and over and over again in multiple lines of research, you know that there's a very, very, very strong correlation between saturated fat intake and Alzheimer's disease. On the contrary, polyunsaturated fatty acids, or the good types of fats that are found in nuts, in seeds, in sometimes whole grain products, in avocados, and some other plant-based sources of fats, not coconut oil, I'm afraid. These are associated with good health. These are associated with lower risk of Alzheimer's disease.
Optimal nutrition includes healthy fats from plant sources such as seeds and nuts and avocados. And such a diet has a tremendous ability to help us to maximize our focus and our productivity and our brain power. And among the foods and nutrients that promote clear thinking and cognitive function, the omega-3 fatty acids, and especially DHA, play a critical role.
The things that come to mind for me are a number of things, of course, but you need to have enough nutrients and calories, and every nutrient will matter. But omega-3 fatty acids are really important. Omega-3 fatty acids are important because they're anti-inflammatory, but they also are the substrates for a variety of compounds like eicosanoids and resolvins and protectants. And these omega-3s are also, especially DHA, is pivotal for the cell membranes and the flexibility and permeability and shape and structure of these cell membranes. And so it affects our neurotransmitters as well. So it's really, these are structural materials for the brain. And even EPA is very important for preventing depression.
These are the fats that are needed by the brain to keep the infrastructure healthy and to keep it functioning properly. Dean and I conducted a couple of systematic reviews a couple of years ago, looking at the importance of DHA and EPA, which are omega-3 fatty acids, in the two bookends of life, for children's brain health and for elderly's brain health. And we found out that, for people who may have some cognitive impairment later on in life, and for children that are growing, consumption of DHA is incredibly important. When you look at dietary patterns like the Mediterranean diet or the Mayan diet or the Adventist Health Studies vegetarian diet, when they consume foods that come from plants, fats that come from plants, they are associated with a lower risk of Alzheimer's disease. The one important fat that we need to consume on a daily basis are omega-3 fatty acids, specifically DHA. How do we get them? We get them from seeds like chia seeds, flax seeds, hemp seeds, from walnuts, from sometimes kale.
Foods like chia seeds, flax seeds, hemp seeds, and walnuts all contain a form of omega-3 fatty acid called ALA. But there is a problem. In most people, ALA is not readily converted to the longer chain omega-3s, EPA and DHA.
And some people deal with this by eating fish in order to get their EPA and DHA. And many kinds of fish are rich sources of these nutrients. But we're running out of fish in our oceans, and fish often are contaminated with mercury and other heavy metals.
Another option are algae-based DHA and EPA supplements. I'm impressed by the crucial importance of getting enough DHA and EPA, so personally I take an algae-based DHA and EPA supplement every day.
Well, I do too. We know that people with lower blood levels of DHA and EPA have smaller brains and higher rates of Alzheimer's. And that can be an issue for people who don't eat fish, but we also know how to successfully address this. One randomized controlled trial found that after 6 months of taking a DHA and EPA supplement, people had improved cognitive function, they had less brain shrinkage, and better brain structure. And these benefits were found to be particularly striking in older adults.
In multiple lines of research, it's been shown that people who opt for a plant-based diet or a vegan diet, they have lower omega-3 index if they're not consuming the right kind of foods. And you're absolutely right that the conversion of ALA into DHA, EPA, and then DHA is very, very low. So you have to consume a whole lot of ALA-based foods, such as seeds, for it to convert into an equivalent amount of DHA that would be beneficial for brain health. And sometimes people can't really meet that need. And DHA, getting a direct source of DHA from algae-based omega-3 fatty acids, is a very easy way to do it. Thankfully, especially living in the Western world, we have access to those kind of supplementation from an algae base. And studies have shown that there's really no difference between the DHA that comes from algae versus the DHA that comes from fish. As a matter of fact, this main source of DHA are algae. The fish consume the DHA in algae, and then, basically we use the fish as a middleman to consume, to get that DHA. So we can go to the source and get that from algae as well.
So these long chain omega-3s are critical. Other nutrients that are really important for the brain, iron is very important for the brain because it supplies oxygen to the brain. So a lack of oxygen, especially during the formative years when we're very young, can cause irreversible brain damage. It can cause mood changes in adults as well. And then other nutrients that are really critical, especially for plant-based eaters, are vitamin B12. So B12 is so important to cognition because it helps us to build the myelin sheath around to protect our nerves. It's important for the neurotransmitters as well. So it's a very critical nutrient for brain function. And if we don't get enough B12, our homocysteine goes up. And that can cause cognitive impairment. So we need to be conscious of that. Iodine is a nutrient that's really important for the brain as well, especially because it actually helps with the development of the brain and nervous system. And so if when you're pregnant, you don't get enough iodine, it can actually cause a 10 to 15% drop in cognition of your child. Now, if you're severely deficient, it is the number one cause of severe cognitive impairment globally. So that's another nutrient that's important. Vitamin D is important. Vitamin E is important. Vitamin E is a strong anti-inflammatory nutrient. So vitamin D is, a lot of people don't realize, but it is a very important brain hormone, and it affects neurotransmitters, neurotrophins. It's just very important for brain function. So there are a lot of nutrients that come into play.
There are indeed a lot of nutrients and foods that come into play and that we need to support a healthy mood and a healthy cognitive function. And there are a few foods that seem to be extra potent brain health superstars.
Are you thinking about mushrooms?
I certainly am, Ocean. I am. In 2021, there was a large study that involved 24,000 participants that was published in the peer-reviewed Journal of Affective Disorders. The study found a strong correlation between mushroom consumption and lower rates of depression. And this association remains strong even after accounting for socio-demographics, major risk factors, self-reported diseases, medications, and a host of other dietary and other factors. And this was the case not only for specialty and medicinal mushrooms like shiitake and lion's mane, it was also true for the common button mushrooms that we see all the time in grocery stores and supermarkets.
Mushrooms of all sorts can be pretty fabulous for our brains. Now let's talk about snacks for a moment. Most of us eat snacks on occasion, but almost all the commercially available snack foods are, to be really honest about it, mostly processed junk. They can provide temporary pleasure, but they often lead to worsened moods in the aftermath. And that's why when hunger pangs strike me between meals, I like to choose snacks that protect my mental clarity instead of compromising it. Some of my favorite focus-enhancing snacks are things like raw veggies with a hummus dip, or a banana with a handful of walnuts or pecans, or a bowl of berries with a ripe avocado, or pomegranate seeds and pistachios. Now there's a great combination I'll bet you haven't tried.
And those are all great brain-healthy snacks. But now let's talk about the world's most popular brain-boosting compound of all, which is caffeine. Now, most people know that the caffeine in coffee augments mental function in the short term. A lot of people, including me, enjoy the caffeine buzz and the daily morning ritual of a cup of freshly brewed coffee. In fact, some of us, including me, would have a hard time starting our day without it. And we have no trouble at all seeing the short-term benefits.
But we also know that if you drink coffee too late in the day, it can interfere with sleep. And some of us worry about the long-term health effects of coffee.
But fortunately, we do now have some solid evidence that for most people, coffee is good long-term for brain health. Coffee helps to fight off oxidative stress and protects against neurodegenerative diseases. In the famous cardiovascular risks, factors, aging, and dementia study, researchers tracked more than 1,400 people over 21 years. And they looked at a broad range of diet and lifestyle choices and the corresponding health outcomes that the people experienced. And they found that people who drank 4 or 5 cups of coffee a day had a 65% decreased risk of dementia in later life.
Of course, to be clear here, we're not talking about some of the dessert coffees that are available at places like Starbucks. Some of them are loaded with added sugar, along with lots of dairy and even artificial flavorings, which don't do your brain any favors. Now, what about chocolate?
Most chocolate bars are full of unhealthy ingredients, and those are best avoided. But chocolate in its natural form is loaded with flavonoids and antioxidants, with fiber and minerals, and it also contains substances that increase the serotonin and the dopamine in your brain. This could be a part of the reason that a large survey of 14,000 adults found that people who regularly eat dark chocolate have a 70% reduced risk of depression.
But the same effect was not seen in the people who regularly ate milk chocolate.
And we also know that people who eat dark chocolate have been shown to have a lower risk of strokes. There's something about dark chocolate that relaxes the arteries and helps supply oxygen and nutrients to the brain.
Now, any list of the best foods for the brain would also have to include berries. Blueberries, of course, have gotten a lot of press as brain-nourishing foods, and that reputation is well deserved. Some people call them brain berries. One study published in the Annals of Neurology analyzed data from 16,000 women with an average age of 74. They found that the women with the highest levels of blueberry consumption delayed their cognitive aging by an average of 2.5 years.
And it's not just blueberries. Strawberries, blackberries, and raspberries have also been shown to slow and in some cases reverse age-related cognitive decline. And all of these berries reduce oxidative stress and improve communication between brain cells. Even common strawberries have enormous benefits for brain health.
Researchers have been looking at berries. You know, if you look at a berry, there's something in there, as you could tell. I mean, that deep blue color is coming from something. That something is what are called anthocyanins. Anthocyanins are the color in blueberries, in grapes, and they're actually cousins of the anthocyanins in the autumn leaves when they're turning red and orange and purple. Those are anthocyanins too. The term anthocyanins is not important to remember. What's important to remember is that these antioxidants, that's what they are. They protect the berry, they protect you. You know, if you think about it, a berry is in the sun, in the elements all day, doesn't have an umbrella, doesn't have sunscreen, but it's got those anthocyanins, so that's the protection. And in your body, they can reduce the risk of Alzheimer's. And researchers also have looked at people, they're up in years, their memory is kind of sputtering a little bit, but they would give them just, say, 2 servings of grape juice or 2 servings of blueberry juice, maybe a cup in the morning, cup at night. And what they found is that within 3 months, the ability to learn, the ability to remember was significantly improved. So we should just build these things into our routine. It doesn't have to be a glass of berry juice. It can be berries on your oatmeal, berries on your salad. The berry group is really just at about the top of our healthy food list.
You talked about leafy greens and their benefits for brain health. Tell us about that.
So leafy greens, the greener the better. Vitamin B9 or folate, several decades ago, research was done at Harvard showing that low folate is associated with a low mood. Now, you can, take a folate supplement, which is folic acid, but you can also eat lots of leafy greens, which are a good idea anyway. You're getting tons of other vitamins and minerals, but you're also getting the fiber. So just adding that into your daily diet, adding something to, say, a tofu scramble, adding it to your salads, adding it as a side for your dinner, all of this becomes super important and easy to do.
Tell us more about fiber and why it matters to gut health and to brain health.
So fiber is often something that in the United States we tend to not eat enough of. This is because we didn't focus a lot on protein. And while protein is an important nutrient to have in our bodies, we are not generally lacking protein. It's usually fiber that we're not eating enough of. Fiber is something that you cannot get from animal or seafood proteins. It's entirely plant-based. So it's something you get from vegetables, fruit, beans, nuts, seeds, legumes, and the healthy whole grains. The breakdown products from fiber-rich foods are very helpful to the gut. They're helpful to the gut microbes. As the gut microbes break down these products, they take the plant polyphenols from these different foods, say the carotenoids from carrots or the anthocyanins from blueberries, and they interact with them. These actually can be very helpful to things like the neurotransmitters, which also live in that environment of the gut.
Another thing that's crucial for brain health is almost embarrassingly simple, and that is to stay hydrated. Dehydration can worsen or even cause anxiety and depression, while staying hydrated is associated not only with decreased depression and anxiety, but also with greater capacity for mental focus.
Now, some people believe it's important to drink a gallon or more of water every day. I don't think the total quantity is as important as making sure you stay hydrated throughout the day. Drinking a gallon of water at one time is almost certainly not a good idea. To be sure that you don't get dehydrated, just drink water throughout the day.
Such a simple thing, but so important. We've been hearing a lot from Dr. Uma Naidu, and I want to say that she has a remarkable background. She's a Harvard-trained psychiatrist. She's a professional chef who graduated with her culinary school's most coveted awards. And she's also a trained nutrition specialist. And this unique nexus of interests have made her a major player in the emerging field of nutritional psychiatry.
I asked her how important hydration is to optimal mental health.
Hydration is extremely important. That is a great question. Studies have looked at dehydration in several different ways. For one thing, clinically, when individuals are dehydrated, they can actually even present with panic. So having people just hydrate adequately throughout the day with just a plain tea or just simply water is one of the best things to tell them to really fend off bouts of anxiety and panic. But dehydration has also been linked to mood and depression. So a simple thing is a sustainable water bottle and making sure that you're sipping on, just filtered water throughout the day and getting, it varies for many people, but making sure that you're adequately hydrated throughout the day is another very simple lifestyle tool that we can practice. Sometimes people have hunger cravings. And because the hunger center and thirst center in the brain are so close, what I will often say to them is rather than reach for something unhealthy or vending machine, which you want to avoid, drink a cool glass of water as you're doing a great demo.
I'm trying to be on brand.
Exactly. So drinking water actually may offset those cravings, and you might be able to get to your healthy meal in a little bit.
We need to have plenty of hydration. Every athlete knows that. Every coach actually knows that. And anyone who's taking care of an older individual, I'm a physician, or taking care of an older parent knows that if you have dehydration, your health can actually go down really, really quickly. In fact, when you actually are dehydrated, your brain starts to shrink as well, and neurons start getting pared away, and your cognition and your attention and your memory starts to fail as well. This is why people lost in a desert, for example, very quickly start to make poor decisions, all right? So we want to be hydrated. So then the question is, what do we actually hydrate ourselves with? What's best? Water is the best. Water is the most popular beverage in the world, followed by green tea. Green tea not only has water, obviously, but it is abundant with tea polyphenols, including catechins, which are good for brain health and gut health and health defenses and metabolism at the same time, followed by coffee. Coffee with chlorogenic acid and many other polyphenols in its pure state. It can also be a wonderful beverage as well. And these are 3 traditional beverages.
The good news for tea and coffee lovers is that these beverages and specific food products have been proven to be good sources of antioxidants. And any food that has a lot of antioxidants and anti-inflammatory help us stay healthy, and it contributes to longevity as well. There are specific compounds in, say, for example, in green tea, EGCG, or catechins, and they have different names and colored compounds that essentially help our cells stay revived and healthy. They start fighting against oxygen reactant species, which are byproducts that are created because of life itself, because our cells, and specifically our brain cells, are so active and they work so hard. So there are a lot of byproducts that are created as a result of those activities, and there has to be a garbage disposal system or like a janitorial system that helps get rid of all of these byproducts to keep the environment healthy for the brain to grow and thrive. We have specific data that shows that consumption of green tea, up to 3 or 4 cups per day, may be associated with lower risk of vascular dementia, Parkinson's disease, and Alzheimer's disease as well. Foods like tea or coffee can actually be a really important source of polyphenols and flavonols and antioxidants. There have been studies that show that in some populations, up to 4 cups of coffee may actually be associated with lower risk of Alzheimer's disease. Now, coffee also has caffeine, so it may not be for everyone. There are some individuals who may have some, for example, cardiac issues like arrhythmias or abnormal heart rates, or they may have anxiety, or they may have some issues that their bodies don't really react very well with coffee or caffeinated beverages, and it might put some pressure on their heart. So they have to be very careful.
What about like herbal teas like hibiscus tea or any others?
Any tea that's brewed or steeped with water is going to have mostly water. So that's really your source of hydration. Whatever you add to steep out of it, whether it's a plant like hibiscus or jasmine for jasmine tea to enhance that flavor, or rooibos is another African plant. Look, you're getting the water and you're actually getting the polyphenols and other natural bioactives that are coming out into the liquid. What I say is try to go and stick with traditional pure stuff. I generally tell people to be careful about flavored teas, because just like flavored water, you have to really be sure that the flavoring is coming from a natural, safe source.
One of the most exciting new frontiers of brain health research centers on the microbiome, and specifically on what researchers call the gut-brain axis. It's really hard to exaggerate the importance of a healthy microbiome for our neurotransmitters and brain chemistry. The trillions of bacteria our bodies play host to have a profound influence on our brain health and on how we experience ourselves and life.
It's a well-known fact that our gut's connected to our brain. So what we feed our gut will definitely affect our brain. You know, and this is really such a cutting-edge area of research, which is how our gut is indeed connected to our brain. And a lot of it seems to be centered around the gut microbiome. So when our bacteria, or healthy gut bacteria, are doing well, they communicate messages to our brain. In fact, brain health conditions like depression, schizophrenia, neurodegeneration like Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, other forms of dementia, all seem to be associated with dysbiosis or unhealthy gut bacteria. And so what we can actually do to improve and optimize our brain health is also at the same time to help our gut health. So some of my favorite foods really are legumes, which have an uncontested benefit of not only having some polyphenols, but a lot of dietary fiber. In fact, it's so profound that some of the research I've been doing, looking at how to feed the body, to feed the gut microbiome, you can get changes threefold of healthy bacteria in as little as 2 weeks. I'm a cancer researcher, so some of my work has really been focused on trying to improve bacteria associated with better cancer outcomes. One of them is called Akkermansia, as an example. And Akkermansia is a bacteria that you can take a supplement of it, but by itself doesn't stick that well to your gut. However, if you feed the gut, and you feed the Akkermansia, it's kind of like putting fertilizer on as well as grass seed. You can really get it to bloom. So foods like pomegranate, seeds or juice, cranberry, which could be dried cranberry or cranberry juice, the pure stuff, not the adulterated sugar, added sugar stuff. And interestingly, Concord grape juice has also been studied, which raises the issue. Of course, grapes are rich with polyphenols. What are the different species that actually, a plant that actually helps you the most? And so that's an area of abundant research.
The gut-brain connection. Okay, well, first of all, although the gut-brain connection, the science is evolving, on a very intuitive level, we know about this. Okay, so if you have perfect digestive health and you walk out of your home and something terrible happens, you witness an accident or you receive some bad news about a relative, what happens? You feel nauseous. Sometimes people vomit. Sometimes people need to rush to the bathroom. Sometimes people become constipated for a few days after this emotional trauma. It's quite normal to be out for a meal with your friend the next day. You don't want to eat anything. Your friend says, "Why aren't you eating?" You say, "Well, this terrible thing happened to me yesterday. I don't feel like eating." And your friend sympathizes and say, "Okay, tell me about it." So what we're describing there is your gut motility, your appetite, the motor complexes within your GI tract, the environment that you provide to your gut microbiome, all being changed dramatically by a purely emotional stimulus. So it makes sense that the gut and the brain are intimately connected. And in fact, the gut-brain connection is made up of hormones, nerves, and also substances that are produced by our gut microbiome, including neurotransmitters. Our gut microbiome produces about 90 different neurotransmitters, which enter our bloodstream. And it's a two-way connection. I've heard it described as a two-way information superhighway connecting our brain and our gut. When we implement a healthy diet, or if you are a physician or a coach who works with people who implement a healthy diet, you'll be very familiar with this. And I call this the happiness effect. Whatever reason the person has chosen to implement a healthy plant-based diet for, when you check in with them, and you know this, maybe 6 weeks later, you say, "So how's it going?" And they say, "Well, I feel lighter. I feel happier. I'm being nicer to people." It's the happiness effect. Now, there's lots of reasons why embracing a healthy whole food plant-based diet can make you feel happier. Knowing that you're eating really healthy food can make you feel happier. Knowing that you're going to lower your cholesterol, reduce your risk of colon cancer, reduce your risk of diverticular disease and coronary vascular disease may all make you feel happier. Personally, after a stressful shift at the hospital, I find nothing more relaxing than chopping vegetables and cooking healthy food, right? But there are other reasons involving the gut microbiome that explain why these foods may make you happier. Now, one of the things is when you eat a high fiber, varied plant-based diet, your gut microbiome becomes really good at producing short-chain fatty acids like butyrate. Now, not only do these short-chain fatty acids help to reduce inflammation in our bowel, help to reduce the risk of coronary vascular disease, help to control our appetite and our blood sugars, they also enter our bloodstream ocean. They enter our cerebrospinal fluid. And in our brain, these short-chain fatty acids, which are made by our gut microbiome, help to maintain the integrity of our brain-blood barrier, which is a mechanism that prevents toxins from entering our brain. And if that barrier is compromised, that can lead to chronic inflammatory changes, depression, mood problems, mood disorders, etc. So there's the science on the gut microbiome brain connection is early, but it's absolutely fascinating. And when you read papers showing certain levels of dysbiosis or unhealthy gut microbiomes in people who are living with depression and other mood problems, very often when you dig deep into those studies, you'll find out that the dysbiosis they're identifying will often be a shortage of certain bacterial strains like Faecalibacterium or Coprococcus. And then you go, okay, well, what do those bacteria do? Turns out they are fiber-loving bacteria that produce short-chain fatty acids and bacteria that flourish in a high-fiber plant-based diet.
A high-fiber, whole foods, plant-based diet, including a wide variety of different kinds of fruits and veggies, is fantastic for a healthy microbiome and for a healthy brain. And there are other contributors to brain health that are important too. One of them is sleep.
And yet, medical trainees and many practicing physicians seem to take pride in their ability to function for more than 24 hours straight without sleep. The lack of nutritional education in medical school is one of the greatest failings of Western medicine, but it's not the only one. I worry about what happens when a doctor wears his or her sleep deficit like some kind of badge of honor.
Sleep deprivation makes us susceptible to infections by undermining the functioning of our immune systems. And getting enough high-quality sleep is important to how you feel and how you function the next day. But it's more than that. When your body is asleep, your brain is filing away all the memories, all the experiences from your day. If you don't get enough sleep, your brain becomes kind of like a desk that's covered with paper and debris. Over time, things get lost, and there's not enough room to take on new projects or to learn new things.
If you don't sleep well, if you don't have enough restorative sleep, then your metabolism will be wonky the very next day. And guess what? Your blood sugar is going to go up, and you're paving the way for insulin resistance, and that is going to open the door to increasing your risk for Alzheimer's disease, which is by and large not a genetic situation.
Sleep is one of the things that's most overlooked in terms of not realizing how impactful it is for mental well-being. Not only can poor sleep affect our circadian rhythms, affect our level of fatigue, affect our alertness, our ability to focus, our concentration, we know that a very important mechanism happens when we're resting. Our cells actually kind of rehabilitate themselves. And this is an important aspect to allow ourselves to sleep and to rest. When our body is resting, these good things happen. And when we cut back on our sleep, or we have choppy sleep, or we have disrupted sleep, we often don't realize that we don't feel that good. And that definitely impacts our mental health. In certain conditions like bipolar disorder, sleep can actually precipitate an episode of mania or manic behavior because the person is so lacking in sleep. And often when in treatment, just having that person be able to rest and sleep can go a long way to stabilizing some of the condition as well as doing other things. So it can be a very sentinel sign in mental illness.
I see two main issues with sleep. One is we work so much and want to be so productive, and we schedule ourselves so tightly that we sacrifice or sleep to get more time in our day. That should be the last thing we do, right? We need to stop trying to do so much that we need to take from our sleep. The other piece is because we work so hard and do so much and we're so mobilized, and we live now in a very disconnected environment, the way the world is today. A lot of fear, a lot of mobilization, a lot of experience of the world is scary and threatening, that our bodies can't go into a state of safety and calm. And you can't sleep when you're mobilized to fight threat. So people will say, I can't sleep. And then they tell me how they're running their lives. And they say, there's something wrong with me. I can't sleep. I got a sleep disorder. And I'll say, when I hear what you're doing in your life, and I hear, you're disconnected at home, trouble with the kids, no meaning and purpose in your life, spiritually disconnected, right? Your food is off, you feel really terrible. You're not active. There's no play and recreation. You're not moving very much. I'll say, your body is in like super high threat mode. Your body's doing exactly what it should. If you could sleep right now, that would be the problem. That would be unusual. The fact that you can't sleep is actually a normal response to how your environment is right now. So once they understand that, it's okay, well, how can we go to work on the environment? Not how can we flood you with sleeping pills and try to make you sleep despite keeping the environment the same. See the difference?
Sleep, those 8 hours, are fundamental for cleansing the brain. If there is any cleanse, don't want to put these patches at the bottom of your feet or all these kind of weird stuff. Sleep deeply, sleep well. That cleans your brain better than anything else.
I think one of the major contributors is our device addiction. And not even owning or acknowledging that it has become an addiction where there's, the fear of missing out is a real thing. And we'll do almost anything to stay on top of it, to stay in the know, including really sacrificing our sleep, not realizing all of the aftermath that occurs because of that. We think, oh, well, I didn't sleep. It's an isolated thing. But it impacts the dietary choices we make. It impacts our ability to include activity in our lives, our ability to connect with others in a meaningful way. So there's so much that's sacrificed when we don't choose to sleep.
Almost everyone knows we need sleep. And a lot of folks spend plenty of time lying in bed. It's just that they struggle to fall asleep at bedtime and to stay asleep through the night. There are a lot of factors that can influence this, of course, but one of them that not many people know about turns out to be the food on our plates, and when we do and don't choose to eat it.
It turns out that eating late at night can interfere with sleep quality and brain health. Even small snacks in the late evening can turn on the whole digestive system. And if you go to sleep on a full stomach, your body has to split its energy between digestion and all the things your brain needs to do during sleep. Basically, humans evolved to eat during the daytime and not to eat at night. When your body gets a big surge of calories but has no immediate need to burn them, it's more inclined to store them as fat.
And now let's go over a few of the top nutrients that are helpful to sleep. So first on the list has got to be fiber, which is found in all whole plant foods. A 2016 study found that greater fiber intake was associated with more time spent in the stage of sleep, slow wave sleep, that's most restorative.
And also important is folate, which is highest in green vegetables. Folate has been linked to lower rates of both insomnia and restless leg syndrome. Getting enough folate also makes you more likely to feel sleepy at bedtime.
And complex carbohydrates raise serotonin. That's a neurotransmitter that basically orients you towards contentment. When you're satisfied and grateful, you tend towards relaxation and even drowsiness. Complex carbohydrates also lower the stress hormone cortisol. High levels of cortisol have been shown to inhibit sleep because they set us up to fight or to flee, which doesn't go hand in hand with sleeping.
And there are isoflavones. These are a class of phytoestrogens that are found in plant foods, and especially in soybeans and in flax seeds. There was a 2015 Japanese study of over 1,000 people that found that higher isoflavone intake was linked with better sleep duration and better sleep quality.
Some other nutrients that have been linked to better sleep quality and quantity of sleep include magnesium, tryptophan, and melatonin.
Actually, Ocean, I was just thinking about some new research about melatonin, and I'd love to share about it because I think it's significant.
Sure.
It turns out that melatonin is an extraordinary anti-inflammatory molecule. During the Ebola outbreak, melatonin emerged as a useful treatment because it targets the inflammation that leads to the life-threatening hemorrhaging that is characteristic of Ebola. And during the COVID pandemic, people who took melatonin supplements to help them sleep were 35% less likely to test positive for the virus. Melatonin is now being explored as a treatment to counteract the profound inflammation seen in critical COVID cases and long COVID cases. And we're learning that it is one of the human body's most effective antioxidants, reducing the damage caused by oxidative stress.
And of course, melatonin is the sleep hormone, so it should only be taken at bedtime or during the night. Now, in addition to a healthy diet, one of the other key things that's been found helpful in improving brain resilience is utilizing some form of meditation or mindfulness practice. Why is this so helpful?
And what's so interesting about meditation is we found that there's power in meditation just by you meditating, or you just clear your mind, or you focus on nature and everything else, and it has huge benefits. But there's also huge benefits when you look and you realize that I'm a part of a bigger picture, that there is a process, that there's something, a purpose for me in life, and there's a purpose that I have, that the profound effects were even amplified. And so we see that this transforms. So a lot of the research has happened with functional MRIs, kind of looking and really delving into the fact that there is highlighting of certain areas of the brain. What's so interesting is that you deactivate the amygdala. So the amygdala is like this area that houses all of the memories, the traumatic memories, the things that lead to PTSD. And so when it dampens that area that's there, all of a sudden, I'm not as reactive to those triggers anymore. That all of a sudden it's going to enhance the empathy and enhance some of these other emotional centers inside of our brain. And that's very interesting.
We've seen data over at least the past decade that that mindfulness practices, and there's particular types of breathing practices, for example, when people engage in these things over a long period of time, we see preservation of the areas of the brain that are typically at risk for Alzheimer's disease. So this is, I guess as you describe it, this is a four-legged stool. And so I think that's a really important thing to be considered, because, in the context of the fact that there's no pharmaceutical fix, why would we not want to bring on these lifestyle practices? The problem is that I think the messaging that people get is live your life however you want, and we're going to develop something one of these days to help you if you are diagnosed with Alzheimer's. Engage in a mindfulness practice. Eat the right foods, move more, and we should probably spend more time dealing with that, talking about that, and certainly sleep. These are important, fundamental issues to dramatically reduce your risk for developing this situation, now ranked as the third leading cause of death in America. Think about that. And it doesn't have to happen to anyone watching us right now. We can offset that risk dramatically by engaging in these lifestyle practices. And the bottom line is, they're free. That's what is so breathtaking. And it is precisely because they are free that they are non-remunerative and we don't hear about them. Taking the latest beta amyloid targeting drug is anything but free, costing tens of thousands of dollars annually, barely able to move the needle in terms of preservation of cognitive function, and replete with variety of dangerous side effects. And yet the things we're talking about, dietary changes, paying attention to your sleep, involve yourself in a meditative practice, and moving are so fundamentally important and are just available for the picking.
Healthy diet and lifestyle can help to prevent Alzheimer's disease and many of the other major illnesses of our times. And they can also do a great deal to nourish the brain pathways and the neurotransmitters that support clear thinking, that support meaningful relationships, and mental and emotional well-being.
And the harder things get in the world around us, the more important this becomes. When you're surrounded by stress, it's harder, but also even more important to cultivate peace. And certainly a lot of us are surrounded by plenty of stress. We're seeing an explosion in rates of depression, anxiety, ADHD, even suicide, and other signs of serious mental and emotional distress. And the pandemic added a whole new layer of isolation that's pushed some of us over the edge.
I feel that so many people are having a hard time with mental health based on a variety of things. What we saw within the pandemic was the isolation factor. People were used to kind of going about their day. Then all of a sudden we told them, stay at home. You can't be around your friends. You can't go out to brunch. You can't, do all of these things that you're accustomed to doing. And for a lot of people, they had never had that before, had that experience where they couldn't commune. We tend to be, all cultures, we tend to be a communal type of people. Even if you kind of look back to the earliest of times, people lived in tribes and things, and that was a community. And so, you took that aspect away, and for a lot of people, they struggled through that. And then there's the aspect, especially, here in America, where a lot of the life that we live is so rush. You've seen these studies where we don't get to as much vacation time, within the jobs that we have, and we don't get even time, we don't exercise as much as we should. And all of these things play a part in our mental health. We know that food plays a part in our mental health. We know that lack of movement plays a part, lack of community, stress there, so there's so many factors that have played a part here. And I think, the pandemic just kind of brought it even more robustly to light for us.
Among the many factors that are playing a part in our mental health challenges today is trauma.
Trauma definitely can have lasting impact on our mental health. The great thing is that we are learning more about it, especially in the healthcare world. There have been studies about the ACEs, which is the impact of childhood trauma. And what we know, even childhood trauma impacts things like obesity, and it impacts, the way that we eat, and that beyond just those mental health diagnoses that we think about. So yeah, trauma plays such a big part. And then the other part of trauma is that some people suppress it. Not all people want to highlight that trauma that they've experienced. But what we know is, when that's suppressed, a lot of times it builds up. And then it turns into significant depression or anxiety or sleep disorders, which then go on to impact other parts of our health based upon those things.
There's a whole way that we interact with our environment, which includes your diet, includes your perception of safety versus threat, right? All of that, it includes how we connect with people we love and care about. All of that affects your mental health.
There are a huge number of factors that affect our mental health. But until recently, the research into food and health focused almost entirely on physical health. So much so that some of what we've learned about the mental health connection was discovered almost by accident.
We recently stumbled into research on the relationship between foods and mental health. And we weren't expecting to go there. We were doing studies on diabetes. And what we found is that when we would change people's diets, their mood would improve. Not only did their diabetes get better, but their mood would improve. Specifically, depression would tend to be alleviated, and anxiety would go down as well. We did a study with Geico, the car insurance company. And we had a large group of people beginning the study because they wanted to lose weight, or if they had diabetes, they wanted to get better. But we noticed that as they changed their diets, their depression would tend to wane, anxiety would go away. We looked at attendance, just are you getting to work? That improved too. And so digging into the literature, we found that other people are finding the same things. When you get the unhealthy foods out of the diet and bring the healthy foods into the diet, your brain is not disconnected from the rest of you. And so when you're putting healthy foods into your bloodstream and it bathes your brain in the nutrients it needs, it can help your mood.
Diet is a huge, huge player. And what a lot of people don't recognize is that, every single cell of the body, including every brain cell, is a product of what we eat. This is our raw materials with which we build our brain cells. And when we put junk into our body and what is junk? Well, essentially, we're taking often a processed carbohydrate, a processed fat, processed proteins, where the best example is white flour. You take a kernel of wheat and you remove most of what is of value to human health, and you're left with the endosperm of the wheat, which is mainly carbohydrate. And then before you eat the stuff, you add sugar and fat and salt and preservatives and colors and so on. And then you eat the stuff and you expect it to support brain health. It doesn't. There are certain critical nutrients that you need for brain health. And eating a highly processed diet is problematic. It affects your mood, it affects your mental health. And that's where eating real food is just so important. And you know, when you, the exciting news is when you start to put in the raw materials that your body needs to rebuild itself, it happens so quickly. You can recover from illness and even from mental health issues fairly quickly when you start to put in the kinds of materials your body needs. And so that's the good news.
Yes, that is good news. I don't think we're going to create lives we love only by fighting against what we hate. I think we also need a vision of possibility, something to look forward to and aspire to. And in that spirit, I want to invite you to imagine what your life would be like if you were always full of energy. What if you woke up in the morning feeling well rested and moved into the day with a bounce in your step? What if your mind was consistently clear and you had a body that was light and flexible and helped you to perform your best all day long?
The truth is, your body was meant to thrive. It was exquisitely designed to function brilliantly and to work beautifully. And you deserve not just to survive, not just to cope, not just to make it through another day, but to actually love your life.
That's what we want for you. We want you to have the knowledge you need to protect yourself and your family from disease, and we want you to have a body and a brain that help you to thrive and to do what you were born to do. When you treat your body well, and when you eat the right foods, you can have more energy, more mental clarity, better sleep, and more satisfaction than you might have ever imagined. However you're feeling right now, we want you to know this is possible.
If your brain is struggling, what I want you to know that you have the power at the end of your fork, that you have the power to make a healthy choice that can actually help heal your brain over time.
Thinking about your mother right now, my grandma. She passed away more than a decade ago from Alzheimer's disease. She always insisted there was no connection between the food we eat and the degree of health that we experience, despite having this guy for a son. She said, and she believed, that genetics trumped everything else. And she found doctors who reinforced that thinking.
And I watched as my mother continued to eat the standard American diet with ice cream every single day, even as my father changed what he ate and his health improved greatly. I would have loved to help her change, but sometimes the only people we can change other than ourselves are in diapers.
Eventually, my grandma couldn't recognize me or my dad or anyone else. And I felt how sad it is that any family ever has to go through something like that. And I just want to say how sad I am that you had to watch your mom, my grandma, suffer like that. And really, I know we can all relate. We've all lost loved ones. We've all seen people suffer. We've all suffered ourselves. You know, we're all going to die eventually. And of course, death is a part of life. But as long as we're here, I, for one, want to live as fully and as abundantly as I can. And I want to help my loved ones, which includes you, to do the same.
And that's why we've created this docuseries and this summit, to put the power back in your hands. And please be sure to join us tomorrow for episode 3 of this summit. Our topic will be an important one: how you can improve your gut health, your microbiome, and in the process, nurture a truly healthy life.
We'll see you there. Let's do this. Well, thank you so much for sharing in that incredibly powerful episode. To express your opinions on what you've been hearing and to find out what other folks are saying, post and engage in the comments section on our broadcast page. Make sure you refresh those comments with the button provided down there if there's some new ones so you can see the most recent ones that have been submitted. Kelly said, I had significant cognitive impairment a few years ago. I don't know the cause still, but I suspect the loss of relationships, stress, lack of social support, and environmental toxins were contributing factors. When I moved, I had significant improvement almost overnight. My cognitive function continues to improve, and I finally feel hope again that I may have full recovery. Neuropathy in my feet has also been healing. Kelly, thank you for sharing that with us. That is so heartening, so inspiring. Bless you on the path to healing and cleaning up your relationships and your environment, and hopefully also your food choices. I'm so glad that you're experiencing movement in a positive direction. I hope that what you've learned today will help accelerate your path towards full recovery and a clear mind for many healthy years to come. Nicole said, thank you, Ocean, for keeping this summit continuing each year and giving people the opportunity to re-watch episodes. Such amazing information, life-changing advice, and awesome interviews. Your father made a powerful choice to leave a family business that caters to cravings and animal cruelty, and instead make waves in the health world. You, Ocean, are making ripples of change around the world that continue on long after this summit ends. Thank you. Nicole, thank you. And you know, folks, the way that those ripples go, we make those ripples with our choices and our lives. So Nicole, thank you for being a part of this movement with us. And you know, my dad and I are often called the founders of Food Revolution Network, but really I feel like we were found and we were founded by this work. And I hope that it's finding you too, and that together maybe we can spread these ripples far and wide. And yes, since my name is Ocean, I'm particularly fond of the ripples metaphor. Hema said, wealth of information for both healthcare providers and public at large. Thank you. I'm a retired physician assistant. The information is priceless. Hema, thank you. And by the way, a lot of folks are looking perhaps later in life at maybe a second career, or just wondering how they can really spread the word about this work more widely. And one of the things we've done at Food Revolution Network is to create a plant-based coaching certification. So many people are joining in this so they can gain critical skills to be able to be ambassadors and perhaps also build a livelihood spreading the food revolution and helping change lives. So if that interests you, go to certification.foodrevolution.org. Again, that's certification.foodrevolution.org. We are open for enrollments right now. Our next cohort launches in January. And this program specifically focuses on 3 pillars: going really deep with nutrition, going really deep with coaching and the science of behavior change and how to help influence other people's lives, and going deep into impact, which has multiple strategies from how to build a business as a coach and get clients, to looking at how you can make a real difference in the world with the skills that you're learning so you can be an activist and an agent of change. So for anybody watching who's interested, again, that's certification.foodrevolution.org. And am I hearing you're a retired physician assistant and you're passionate about this work? I just wanted to tell you about it because this might be a resource that could be of interest to you. Suzanne said, good morning from Palm Beaches, Florida. Thank you, Ocean, for rebroadcasting this magnificent summit. I've been with you for a number of years, and my healing has been nothing short of miraculous. I'm 74 years old, off of all medications, out of pain, and able to exercise again. All biomarkers are now in normal range. Suzanne, thank you for being with us for these years. Thank you for putting what you are learning into action, and congratulations in getting off all medications, getting out of pain, being able to exercise again, and getting your biomarkers into normal range. And folks, I want to emphasize something here. What Suzanne just said has a special piece that is really important. She's able to exercise again. This is one of those positive feedback loops that sets in. When you eat a healthier diet, you tend to have more energy. You tend to get lighter and more vibrant. That enables you to exercise more, to have more capacity to create meaningful social connections with others. And these create positive feedback loops that in turn help you feel better. And then when you feel better, you are more likely to make healthy choices for the long term. When you're in stress, you're more likely to do what's known as stress eating. When you're in peace, you're more likely to make choices that benefit your long-term well-being, to look out for the future. They say that you don't tend to save water when your house is on fire. When you're in a state of reactivity and excessive inflammation, you're more prone to short-term reptilian brain thinking. When you're able to create the conditions for vitality and wellness, then you feel more resourceful and more resilient, and you tend to make choices that will benefit you for the long term. And this, folks, is one of those beautiful, positive feedback loops that can get set in motion. Suzanne, it sounds like you're experiencing that, and I'm so happy to hear it. Sue said, I started watching your Summits docuseries in 2023. I immediately started transitioning to whole foods plant-based. I'm now 95% vegan. I have type 2 diabetes. I've lost 40 pounds, and my A1C dropped from 7.3 to 6.4. Other blood values have improved significantly. So glad I found this new way of eating. Wonderful, Sue. I'm so glad to hear about your journey. Thank you for telling us. And by the way, for anybody dealing with type 2 diabetes, we created a masterclass with dietitian Brenda Davis called Tackling Type 2. If you go to type2, the number 2.foodrevolution.org, you can sign up for free for that masterclass, and it really goes into how you can help prevent and reverse type 2 diabetes. Researchers out there that up to 90% of type 2 diabetes can be prevented with healthy diet and lifestyle, and a huge portion of it can be reversed. And it sounds like you're already solidly on that path, Sue, which is so wonderful to hear. Keep on keeping on, and you just may turn this thing around completely. Shelley said, had to put my mother-in-law in a nursing home yesterday due to Alzheimer's. I have several autoimmune issues as well, hoping to gain lots of knowledge for myself as well as my in-laws. Shelley, we're sending so much love to you and your family. That is such a challenging process to go through. And I too hope you're gaining knowledge that will benefit you and your in-laws and everyone you love. Jen said, my protein count is low. I'm whole food plant-based. How do I get more protein? Well, Jan, thank you for asking. First of all, I want to make sure everyone is clear that all whole plant foods contain all 9 essential amino acids. Some have more or less than others, of course, which is why a variety of foods is best. But for anybody who's thinking, oh, do I need to count amino acids? You don't. As long as you're eating a variety of whole plant foods or whole foods in general, that's not a critical issue. Now, plants that are especially rich in protein include legumes. Dr. Michael Giger says, anybody who's worried about protein doesn't know beans. So legumes, but also peas and lentils, edamame, tofu, tempeh. These are all wonderful. But also nuts and seeds. And there are also some whole grains like oats and quinoa and buckwheat and amaranth that are high in protein. Also, a lot of vegetables are high in protein, by the way. They're just so high in water that the total caloric count isn't that high. You may want to consider including a protein-rich plant food with every meal and snack time. For example, enjoying oatmeal in the morning with some nuts and seeds. Hemp seeds are a great source of protein. Or tacos with black beans, salsa, greens, and avocado. A stir fry that includes tofu, rice and veggies with some tofu as well in there. It's some snacks like hummus and veggies with a trail mix with nuts and seeds. Some plant-based yogurt with nuts and fruit. Those are just some ideas. Also, consuming enough calories is important. Since plant-based foods are so high in fiber and also in water, we can sometimes see calories naturally decrease when someone starts eating a more plant-based diet, which is one of the reasons plant-based diets can be effective in weight management. So getting enough total calories can be important if you want to keep your protein intake up. My personal favorite little hack is Eden Soy unsweetened soy milk. This contains nothing but organic soybeans and water, and it delivers 12 grams of protein per cup of soy milk. So when I make a big smoothie, I'll put in 2 cups of soy milk and a 1/4 cup of hemp seeds and a couple tablespoons of peanut butter. Throw in some vanilla and frozen banana, maybe some other fruit. I'm getting almost 50 grams of protein right there, which is pretty epic if you think about it. And be sure to tune in for episode 7 because we're going to cover protein in a lot more depth then. Neil said, I just had a triple bypass open heart surgery. I can't continue to eat the Western diet. Neil, we're sending a lot of love to you. You are so in the right place. Keep tuning in to this summit and especially watch episode 5 because we're going to go really deep into cardiovascular disease and you're going to learn a lot. This is profoundly important information. There's a lot of hope for you. This can make a world of difference. So welcome, keep watching, and keep putting this into action in your life. We're sending you so much love and wishing you well in your recovery. Melissa said, hello from New York. I listen to your summit every year. Every year I'm totally engrossed and have the highest intention of trying to live the whole food plant-based lifestyle. This lasts for about a week. I find the biggest obstacle is not that I don't want to do it, but I'm not sure how to do it. I'm diabetic and get nervous eating a lot of fruits and vegetables. A lot of lectures are very illuminating in terms of information, but it would be great to see a lecture on how to go from point A to point B. Maybe how to gradually phase in a plant-based lifestyle for someone who's been eating a low-carb, high-protein diet and hopes to address diabetes. Would love to see more information going forward on the practicality of moving forward with a whole food plant-based diet. Melissa, thank you so much for raising this. So this Food Revolution Summit focuses a lot on the why, as you're illuminating here, and not so much on the how. We have a lot of resources at Food Revolution Network to help you implement what we're talking about here. So a few of the things, since you mentioned diabetes, I will again encourage you to check out the Tackling Type 2 Masterclass with Brenda Davis at type2.foodrevolution.org. And from there, there's a course we created with Brenda, also called Tackling Type 2, that goes a lot deeper into this. So that could be really helpful for you. I also want to let everybody know that I got an advanced copy of our brand new cookbook, Powered by Plants, nutrient-loaded 30-minute meals to help you thrive. I personally think this is one of the most beautiful books ever created. It's lush with incredible recipes and practical tips. And it's also focused on nutrients and how you can maximize your nutrient intake on a whole food plant-based diet. And we look at the specific nutrients that can be points of concern for some people and how to get enough. So if you want to have delicious, healthy, nutrient-loaded recipes that are also easy to prepare in 30 minutes or less, this is an incredible resource. It's available for pre-orders now. If you go to poweredbyplantsbook.com. Again, that's poweredbyplantsbook.com. You can learn more about it and order your copy in advance so you can be the first to have one when it comes out. We also have a Whole Life Club membership program. Whenever you get an empowerment package from this summit, you get an opportunity to join in with a 30-day free trial. And we have multiple courses, including one called Plant Powered and Thriving. If you stay on our email list, you'll learn about all these resources over time. We're here with you, Melissa, and we want to support you every step of the way. Yolanda said, how does this way of eating benefit someone with kidney disease? Well, thanks for asking, Yolanda. Let me touch on this in a little bit of depth. So there are a lot of ways that a whole foods plant-based diet could be helpful for someone with kidney disease by supporting kidney function and as well as overall health. And let me be clear, what I'm saying here is not medical advice. None of this is. We're just sharing coaching and best wisdom and insights. But of course, consult with a qualified healthcare professional if you're dealing with kidney disease and you want help with your medical situation. But here are some things that are generally helpful about a whole foods plant-based diet. So one is reduced protein load, especially from animal products. So animal proteins in specific can be taxing on the kidneys because their breakdown produces waste products like urea that the kidneys have to filter out. Proteins from plant sources tend to be easier on the kidneys, which reduces the workload on the kidneys and helps slow the progression of kidney disease. Also, lower sodium intake. So whole plant foods are naturally low in sodium. Foods that are ultra processed tend to be higher in sodium. So lower sodium diets can help manage blood pressure, which is critical for kidney health. High blood pressure can worsen kidney disease. Reducing sodium intake may help. Plant-based diets tend to reduce inflammation. Chronic inflammation contributes to kidney damage. A plant-based diet that's rich in antioxidants and anti-inflammatory compounds, like those that are found in fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds and whole grains, can help bring down inflammation and protect your kidney health. Also, a whole foods plant-based diet can help with blood sugar control. Kidney disease is often linked to diabetes, and a whole foods plant-rich diet can help manage blood sugar levels and provide fiber-rich and low glycemic foods. This can help reduce insulin resistance and lower the risk of further kidney damage that could be caused by high blood sugar levels. And of course, reducing risk of cardiovascular disease, which we'll be focusing more on episode 5 coming up in a few days. People with kidney disease are at increased risk of heart disease. A plant-based diet is well known for supporting heart health by lowering cholesterol levels and blood pressure and inflammation. This not only benefits the heart, but also the kidneys, because these organs are very connected. Lisa said, I've read that you should take breaks from melatonin if you take a supplement. Is that true? If so, what's the reason for doing so? Lisa, thanks for asking. Melatonin is a hormone that your body naturally secretes, particularly when you're falling asleep. It can be very helpful. Some people find that supplementing with melatonin leads to better sleep. And research has been very positive on the overall health benefits of melatonin supplementation. But there is a concern some people have that if you take a supplement every day, your body might start to become dependent on it by making less melatonin endogenously. This is a widely held belief. However, it turns out there isn't actually research to back it up. Multiple studies have found that taking melatonin does not affect the body's ability to produce melatonin on its own. We did write an article about this. If you go to foodrevolution.org and type melatonin in the search bar, you can learn more about it. And I'll say personally, I've been taking melatonin the last couple of months, and I track on my Fitbit my sleep, and I've added about 20 minutes a night average to my sleep since starting taking melatonin. So I find it helpful. That's just me, but there's a lot of research out there. It may be beneficial. And of course, listen to your own body. You may want to go off it every so often just to make sure that you can still sleep well, so you know you're not developing that dependency. Just because something's true for a lot of people or in a lot of studies doesn't mean it's true for you. So your own experience is what's most important here. Gail said, I've had to cut back on my intake of green leafy vegetables because of the oxalates in them, contributing to my development of kidney stones. I've noticed a big decrease in my mental health and energy levels. Thoughts? Well, Gail, thanks for sharing this. And yeah, cutting back on green leafy vegetables could impact mental health and energy. So this is a problem. But of course, you also don't want kidney stones. So let me give a little context here so folks understand. So oxalates are sometimes demonized as nutritional villains, along with other supposedly harmful compounds that are found in plants like phytates, lectins, and the alkaloids found in nightshades. The main concern in general with eating a diet high in some of these compounds is that they might decrease your body's ability to absorb nutrients. However, in general, I've got to say there are tons of studies associating the very foods that are high in some of these so-called anti-nutrients with life expectancy and with decreased risk of chronic disease. So in general, anti-nutrient issues are not a major concern. Yes, they could impact absorption of minerals like zinc and calcium and iron somewhat, but they also add tremendous health benefits to your life. So the net of it seems to be very positive. Now, the biggest concern with oxalates specifically is, of course, that they could contribute to kidney stones. So that's the thing that you're addressing. Now, there are 4 basic types of kidney stones, and only one of them, calcium oxalate kidney stones, seems to be a major concern here. Calcium oxalate kidney stones are formed when calcium in your urine combines with oxalates, and low oxalate diets are sometimes prescribed for people who are prone to the calcium oxalate form of kidney stones. adhering to this kind of a diet means eating less than 100 milligrams of oxalic acid per day. That's going to mean you want to steer clear, if you're in this situation, of spinach, beet greens, and Swiss chard in particular, because those are very high in oxalic acid. So that's out of an abundance of caution. When you're on such a diet, you want to steer clear of those particular greens. But there are a lot of other greens that have lower amounts that may still be fine for you. So, so those are some general thoughts. And if you want to learn more, you can go to foodrevolution.org and type in oxalates for our article on oxalates specifically. Or if you're interested in anti-nutrients more broadly, type in anti-nutrients and learn about our article, see our article about that in general. Sharon said, is it better to not eat fruit if it's not organic? Short answer, Sharon, no, it's not. Organic is great. You want to steer clear of pesticides if you can for your own health and also for the well-being of farm workers and the environment. But don't make the perfect the enemy of the good. We have an abundance of studies showing that when people eat more fruits as well as vegetables, they live longer and they feel better. They have reduced risk of chronic disease. It's good for their health. Most of the people in those studies were not eating fruits and vegetables that were grown organically. What you can do is wash your produce, particularly fruits and berries and leafy greens, if they're not growing organically, in order to reduce the pesticide exposure. Now, washing just by rinsing them in water will reduce pesticide exposure a little bit, but the biggest key here, if you're going with non-organically grown fruits or vegetables, is to soak them in a solution of about 1 tablespoon of baking soda per gallon of water for about 15 minutes. Doing so will reduce the pesticide exposure level by about 80 to 90%. So that's something you can do that really works. If you go to foodrevolution.org and type washing produce, you can see our article that goes into a lot of depth, but that's the cornerstone takeaway of it all. But the bottom line is, if you can't even do that, it still doesn't mean you should stop eating fruits or berries. And by the way, you can also get them frozen, often cheaper than fresh. So if you're on a budget, frozen can work really well too. Donna said, what are your thoughts about vegan meat substitutes such as Beyond Burgers, sausages, etc.? Well, Donna, thank you for asking. So there are multiple reasons why people might choose to go plant-based, right? One is health, that's uppermost for a lot of us. 2 is ethical concerns about the well-being of animals, not wanting to support factory farms in particular, or in some cases, some people simply don't want to kill animals for food if they don't need to for ethical reasons. And 3 is the environmental impact of food and concern about the future of our planet and the environmental impact of animal products. We'll be going into those issues more in episode 8. But in terms of the health issues, because let me be clear, all of the plant-based meat substitutes are going to generally be free of cruelty to animals, and they're also going to be lighter on the earth from an environmental footprint perspective, because anytime you cycle calories through livestock, you get massive inefficiency, because of course those animals have to eat a lot of calories in order to produce whatever calories we consume from them. And a lot of those calories go into hoof and hide and bones and feathers and poop and body heat and so forth, instead of going into the product we ultimately want. So that inefficiency is kind of like a protein factory in reverse. But back to health, because that's probably your top consideration here, Donna, I'm guessing. So there's a variety of opinion on this topic. Certainly a lot of the vegan meat substitutes are ultra-processed foods. We're seeing a lot of research showing us that ultra-processed foods are no great benefit to our health. There's little doubt that you're going to be healthier eating beans than eating burgers of any kind, shape, or sort. So you want to emphasize whole foods, plant-rich foods as much as possible for optimal health. That said, if you're literally comparing a Beyond Burger to a beef burger, there was actually a study done on this, and the conclusion was that the people who were eating the Beyond Burgers fared better than the people eating the beef burgers over the course of a month. That said, the study was funded by Beyond Meat, but it was done by some pretty legitimate researchers, in my opinion. So that is something to consider. The Meat substitutes tend to be lower in saturated fat, and some of them are also lower in sodium than their meat-based counterparts. But is it an optimal health food? Heck no. Beans are much better when it comes to your health than burgers, almost invariably. We heard from Lily, who said, "Thank you, Ocean and Dad. I'm a 71-year-old senior, generally happy and well, and on a limited income. So much of the healthy supplements and practices out there are very costly. You provide affordable methods to a healthy life. I can't tell you how much you are appreciated. God bless you and be well." Well, Lily, thank you so much for being here, and I'm so glad that you're in this journey with us at 71 years young. And, you know, a lot of folks are on limited incomes. A lot of folks don't have gobs of money to spend and want to be healthy. And here's the good news. Healthy food can be remarkably affordable, not even counting the savings in healthcare costs down the road. When you eat a whole foods, plant-rich diet, you can actually save loads of money compared to takeout, restaurants, processed foods, and animal products. So that's the good news. And it doesn't cost a ton to eat legumes, to eat whole grains, to eat cabbage and carrots and onions and button mushrooms, and to eat frozen berries even, certainly frozen fruits or fresh fruits when they're in season, maybe to grow a little garden. All of these things can be potent. And you know what can also be potent is sprouts. When you grow your own sprouts at home, it's incredibly cost efficient and incredibly nutritious. We'll focus on that a little more in later episodes as well. But we also want to support you, Lily. I get that you're on a limited income and that you're wanting to apply all this in your life. We want to make that easier for you. So we're going to gift you with an empowerment package. Congratulations. Our team will follow up with you, and you will own all of the recordings and the transcripts of this entire summit for life. Plus, you'll have access to more than $1,000 worth of health boosting bonuses. And of course, you'll have all of the extended interviews so you can go deeper into all of it. Congratulations. I know you will put it to wonderful use. And congratulations also to all of our newest empowerment package owners, including Gabriella from Ontario, Canada, Karen from Massachusetts, Julia from Arkansas, Ivan from the United Kingdom, Wendy from Georgia, Char from Florida, Celine from New Zealand, Michael from Texas, Anja from the Netherlands, Neil from Australia, Helen from Wisconsin, Bernadine from the UK, and everyone else who's stepping up and getting informed and owning it for life. We thank you for investing in your health and supporting our mission with your purchase. And of course, you won't just own the episodes for life. You'll also have the transcripts complete with source links to studies cited, and you will also now own all of the extended interviews, so you can listen deep into the topics of the day, and also the extended interviews that we're not even able to share during the course of this live summit. So I also want to let you all know, free for all of the free summit participants, we have 3 extended interviews that are available today. As soon as we finish today's broadcast, they'll be on replay page. This is interviews with Drs. Dean and Aisha Sherzai on Brain Smart Living, the holistic approach to preventing cognitive decline. One with Dr. David Perlmutter on the Brain Power Blueprint, reducing Alzheimer's risk and nurturing mental clarity. And one with Dr. Uma Naidu on food and mental health, the surprising foods that fight depression, anxiety, PTSD, OCD, ADHD, and more. These are incredible interviews, folks. We were only able to include a few highlights from them in today's episode, but you can go deep into these topics, and what you learn could change your life in the best possible way. So I encourage you all, if you possibly can, to make space during the day to listen to any or all of these extended interviews. And of course, if you own an empowerment package or you choose to get one, then you'll have all of them for life, so you can listen at your leisure anytime or place you want. And we also have 3 recipes of the day from FRN's lead dietitian and recipe developer, Nicole D'Andrea Russert, RDN. Number 1 today, we've got buckwheat muesli. This is a great plant-based breakfast or a nourishing snack that's as tasty as it is good for you. It's made with organic buckwheat and almonds and pumpkin seeds and flax meal. chia seeds and hemp seeds, and dried cranberries. So it's packed with omega-3s and antioxidants to support brain health and cognition. Plus you get a sprinkle of cinnamon for a little sweet spice. And this muesli is not just a meal, it's a brain power boost in a bowl. Next we have blackberry arugula salad. This is fresh with fruit and a great way to support your health and well-being. It's packed with blackberries and arugula. It's rich in antioxidants and vitamin C and K, as well as fiber and phytonutrients that combat oxidative stress and inflammation of the body, including the brain. Plus, with the added benefits of calcium and vitamin A and folate and potassium from arugula, this salad is a powerful ally for enhancing memory and overall brain function. And this, by the way, the blackberry arugula salad, is also our recipe demo of the day. So you'll have a video of Nicole showing you how she makes it in her own kitchen. That's also going to be available once we wrap up the live broadcast on the replays page. Finally today, we've got walnut pesto angel hair pasta, which makes healthy eating as simple as 1-2p, packed with vibrant greens like kale and avocado and basil, and boosted with omega-3 rich walnuts. This dish is a taste sensation that also supports your brain health. Mixed with savory mushrooms and sweet green peas for an extra dose of fiber and nutrients, it offers a fast, flavorful, and effective way to nourish your body and your brain in every forkful. So those are our recipes of the day, and we're just so happy. I hope you're feeling slightly overwhelmed in the best possible way with all the love and all the resources and all the support we're wanting to bring to you with the daily episodes, the live broadcasts, the questions and answers, the comment forum, the daily recipes of the day, the recipe demo videos, and the extended interviews with our guest experts. Can you tell that we're excited about this stuff? Can you tell that we want to share as much as we can with you? It's because we're passionate, and it's because we want to support you, and because we know what's at stake for you, and because we want to help you to thrive. And I want you to know you're part of a global community of more than 400,000 people now who have signed up for this summit and who are stepping up and activating the food revolution. So we're now approaching the end of day 2 of the Food Revolution Summit docuseries. And again, to express your opinions on today's episode and the summit so far, to find out what other people are saying, post and engage in the comment section on the broadcast page, and make sure you refresh the comments with the button you'll see down there so you can see the latest ones that have been submitted. Come on back and join us tomorrow when we go live at 7:45 a.m. Pacific time. That's 10:45 Eastern, 2:45 GMT, or at 11 Eastern time when we start rolling episode 3, Healthy Gut, Healthy Life, How to Nurture a Thriving Microbiome. It's going to be amazing. In the meanwhile, again, you can post your comments and share in the conversation. You'll be able to catch the replays right here on this page after I'm done live here. The video will automatically be available. And you'll be able also on the replays to watch the 3 in-depth expert interviews and to check out the recipe demo video of the day and, of course, the recipes of the day. Please also consider checking out the empowerment package if you want to have more time and space to enjoy all of this at your leisure for life, plus all the bonuses and so much more, available for half price throughout the summit with a link right on the broadcast page. And of course, if you want to pre-order Powered by Plants, we're so excited to have a copy in hand for me to show you today. It's an amazing book. Can't wait to share it with the world when it comes out on October 29th. You can pre-order a copy today if you wish to. We're so glad you're here with us, and we're wishing you a wonderful and healthy and thriving day. I'm Ocean Robbins, signing off from day 2 in the Food Revolution Summit. And here's a peek at what's coming up tomorrow. The connection between our gut health and almost every other part of our physical and mental well-being is undeniable. The microbiome world could be the most compelling and critical new frontier of health science.
What does our gut do? Well, it's got a lot of functions, but maybe one of its most important and fundamental functions is it takes the food that we eat, breaks it down, and turns it into the building blocks of your healthy body. When you wake up in the morning, about 3 ounces of you is brand new. Your body is constantly repairing and building and synthesizing. Where do we get the fuel to build those little blocks every single day? We get them from our food.
The microbiome is the gut bacteria that live in our colons. In fact, so far that we've discovered, the human colon is the most biodense environment on planet Earth. Nowhere are there more bacteria, there's more life per unit centimeter than the human gut. It's amazing. Nowhere else in the animal kingdom, nowhere else on planet Earth have we found more life concentrated.
90% of your immune system is in your digestive tract. Now, why is that? Your digestive tract is one of your largest environmental exposures. So it's got to have an incredibly robust immune system, which knows how to deal with, pathogenic bacteria and other products that may enter your digestive system. By fostering a healthy gut microbiome and having a healthy diet, you're doing a whole lot to benefit your immune system.
What's really keeping the gut healthy? What's modulating the immune system? What's creating a healthy microbiome?
In this episode, we will share the groundbreaking research sparking the microbiome revolution. We'll explore how your gut really works, uncover the root causes of digestive issues, and show you ways to support a healthy microbiome. A balanced microbiome can positively influence your entire body and mind, leading to a healthier, happier you. Join us in watching this episode as we explore this complex and fascinating world and discover the steps you can take to a healthier gut and a more vibrant life. Let's do this. At Food Revolution Network, we're on a mission for healthy, ethical, sustainable food for everyone who eats. We believe that no matter where you come from or what you've been through, the simple truth is you are meant to thrive. The Food Revolution Summit is packed with so many insights that it can be difficult to absorb and apply all of them. That is why we created the Empowerment Package, which includes the entire summit, plus all the transcripts and loads of bonus material that you can refer back to as often as you like for life. We have a mission. We want an end to routine use of antibiotics in factory farms. We want kids to learn about healthy food in school, and we want doctors to learn about nutrition in medical school. We want to slash rates of heart disease, cancer, diabetes, and obesity, and to uplift the health of millions. When you purchase the Empowerment Package, you are supporting your health and this mission. And for each package purchased, we make a donation to Trees for the Future, enabling them to plant an organic fruit or nut tree in a low-income community. Invest in your health and the health of those you care about most, and help us change the status quo by purchasing your Empowerment Package today.